You know, when an earthquake hits, the real danger isn't the ground shaking beneath our feet. It's the buildings around us. Today, we're diving into a brand new rulebook designed to make sure those buildings actually stand a chance. India's updated seismic code, IS 1893. So let's get into it and see what's changed. Okay, let's kick things off with a number that's, well, it's pretty staggering. 75%. That's the percentage of India's population living in areas that could get hit with moderate to strong earthquakes. This isn't some far-off threat we're talking about. For 3 out of every 4 people, this is a very real risk. And it's not just where people live. We're talking about the land itself. Over 60% of India's entire landmass is seismically active. So really, the question isn't if an earthquake will strike, it's how prepared we are when it does. And on a scale this massive, a strong building code isn't just a good idea, it's a lifeline. All right, so that's the scale of the problem. It's huge, right? So what's the solution? Well, that's where this new blueprint for safety comes in. We're shifting from the what if to the what to do. And it all starts with one really important document. So, what exactly is this thing, IS 1893 Part 5? Let's break it down. Think of it as the official rulebook for engineers and architects. It lays out the must-follow rules for designing buildings that can actually handle the incredible forces of an earthquake. This is our first and most important line of defense. Now, this whole idea isn't brand new, not at all. India has been working on and improving these seismic codes for decades, starting way back in 1962. It's an evolving science, and with every update, we get a little bit smarter. This latest 2025 revision is the most focused one yet, creating a special part, Part 5, just for buildings using all the latest research. Okay, so what's actually in this new rulebook? What makes it tick? Well, at its heart, the entire philosophy of building quake-proof structures rests on 4 really crucial principles. Let's call them the 4 pillars of strength. If you get these, you'll get how a building can survive. First up, a robust structural configuration. Sounds complicated, right? But the idea is pretty simple. The code says buildings should have simple, regular shapes. Why? Because they're predictable. And even more important is this idea of a continuous load path. Just picture a building's frame like a human skeleton. Forces need a clean, straight shot to travel from the roof all the way down into the ground. If you break that path, you've got a critical weak spot. Pillar number 2 is lateral stiffness. You see, earthquakes don't just push down. They shake a building violently from side to side. So stiffness is all about how well a building can resist that sideways motion. Yeah, it can sway a little, that's okay, but it can't sway so much that it starts to fall apart. It's got to be rigid enough to keep its shape under pressure. And that brings us to number 3, lateral strength. Now, if stiffness is about resisting movement, strength is about resisting the raw force. This is the building's brute force resistance. It's the maximum horizontal punch it can take from a quake before things get really bad. It's kind of like a boxer's chin. How well can it take a direct hit? And finally, we have the 4th pillar. And honestly, this one's probably the cleverest of them all. Ductility. This is a structure's ability to bend and deform without breaking. The best way to think about it is with a paper clip. You can bend it into a new shape and it doesn't just snap. Now think about a dry twig, the complete opposite, right? It just breaks. Ductility allows a building to absorb and release the immense energy of an earthquake by deforming, which prevents a sudden, catastrophic collapse. It's a real game changer. Okay, so we've seen the 4 pillars of a safe building, but what happens when you ignore them? Let's take a look at the kind of designs that are basically an open invitation for disaster. So what is it that really makes a building dangerous in an earthquake? Well, the new code has a specific name for these design no-nos. They're called irregularities, and these are the features that create dangerous weak spots where all the damage gets focused. One of the absolute worst offenders is something called a floating column. In a safe building, right, the columns go straight from the foundation all the way to the roof. That's our strong, unbroken skeleton. But a floating column, it just stops on a beam. It's a dead end, and all that force from above has absolutely nowhere to go. The new code comes down hard on this, which means some common architectural styles will have to be completely rethought. Next up is the soft story. You've definitely seen this before. It's when the ground floor is basically just open for parking, just a few stilts holding up these heavy, solid floors above. This makes that ground floor dangerously weak and wobbly. During a quake, it's like a champion weightlifter trying to balance all that weight on a pair of sprained ankles. The whole building can just pancake. This rule change alone is going to fundamentally alter how new apartment buildings look.
Finally, the actual shape of the building matters a lot. Simple, symmetrical plans, like squares, are predictable and strong, but complex L, T, or U shapes, they create what are called re-entrant corners. During shaking, these inside corners become massive stress points, where different parts of the building literally start tearing each other apart. What this means in practice is the new code is pushing architects towards simpler, stronger forms, prioritizing safety over some of those complex looks. So, avoiding these bad designs and really leaning into those 4 pillars, that's how we start building a resilient future. But the code doesn't stop there. It gets even smarter because it recognizes that not every building serves the same purpose.
Yeah, this is a really crucial point. The code knows that not all buildings are the same, so it uses this really smart risk-based approach. It actually classifies structures based on how important they are to society, especially right after a disaster hits. This lets engineers focus their efforts where they matter most. And this table here lays it out perfectly. See, for a normal building, like your home, the main goal is life safety. The building might get damaged, sure, but it must not collapse. Then you move up to an important building, like a school. The goal there is to protect lives and have only limited damage. But then you get to critical buildings. We're talking major hospitals, fire stations. For these, the standard is way, way higher. They have to be fully up and running right after a quake, because that's when we need them the most. And this isn't just a national priority. By focusing on safer construction, this code ties directly into the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, specifically building resilient infrastructure and making our cities safer for everyone. So this is really a local blueprint with some serious global significance. So the blueprint for a safer India is here. The knowledge is there, the rules are in place, but it all comes down to one final critical question, doesn't it? The code is written, will we have the discipline and the will to follow it?